Brad Kroll, and my job is to represent you in local government. So as a ward councilor, I'm involved with issues from sidewalks to street repairs to development proposals to health issues and garbage collection and literally everything under the sun. But just to give you some perspective, what brings us here this evening, obviously as you all know because you received my letter, is a proposal for a 14-unit development to be located at the corner of East Howard and Quincy Avenue. The way that I view this meeting always is it's your meeting. It's your opportunity to hear a presentation, take in a presentation, ask questions, hopefully be provided with answers. And I know some folks weren't in attendance. I do have some of their comments that I recorded, and I'll share them with the applicant's attorney. But again, use this as an opportunity, and it is your meeting, and we'll stay here until everyone's satisfied. Just in terms of I guess sequencing, Council Fleming, I would assume that this matter will be at some point in front of the zoning board. I'm not sure if it requires planning board approval.
It will require planning board.
Okay.
Likely we'll file it there first.
So what that means is this is not the end all and be all in terms of a discussion. This is what I try to do with applications coming into our district to get the conversation going. Because at the end of the day, like you folks are the folks that live around the proposed area. So there'll be multiple checkpoints along the way, and you'll receive correspondence from me, notifying you this project is going before the planning board, this project is going before the zoning board. But I do ask one thing: if you do work in any capacity through electronic mail, if you could please provide me with your email address. It is confidential and it stays with me. I don't sell them to any third-party marketer. But what I do is I put out a pretty expansive word newsletter. But for folks, as it relates to development items such as this, it's just an easy way for me to communicate to folks like, hey, you know what, we're going to be out on Wednesday at the planning board. So, and plus our mailing budget from the city council perspective is very lean. So I think I covered it all. I'm going to turn it over to the applicant's attorney at Fleming, and I'm assuming he's going to run us through all these charrettes that we see in front of you. We'll open it up at the end for questions and answers. And again, I appreciate you taking the time to come out and participate. So with that, Council Fleming.
Thank you. I'll let these folks get settled here.
Please.
Cheers over here, not here.
Rowdy, cameraman.
Well, hi folks, thanks for coming out tonight. My name's Ed Fleming. I'm an attorney here in Quincy. My law offices are at 85 Place Street in Wollaston. I'm representing the applicant that will be before both the planning board and the zoning board of appeals. And the name of the company that they're doing business as is Quincy Howard LLC. But the principals are Don Gillespie, who's the manager of the LLC, Walter Hannon, and Tom Tam, who are also principals of that company as well. We're also joined by Shane Losey from the architects. Shane will go through the building plans in a little bit more detail, but I want to kind of give you an overview of what this proposal entails and what it's all about. First of all, you all know the site. It's identified as 484 of Quincy Avenue. It carries the address of Quincy Avenue, even though a lot of the property runs along East Howard Street, but the property address is 484 Quincy Avenue. It's a 29,533 square foot parcel of land. And as you know, although it was previously developed with an insurance business, I think on this location for a number of years, that building has since been removed, and now it just sits as somewhat of a paved parking lot. But the remaining portion of the site is undeveloped. Back in 2006, I represented another developer by the name of Tom Fitzgerald, who actually had a proposal to develop this portion of the site. And he was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals back in 2006 to build 12 residential units, condominium units, or townhouses on this site. And if you remember the site back then, it was all ledge. And a lot of the ledge had been removed back in about 2006 and 2007. And I think market conditions in 2008 caused Tom not to move forward with the project. He then later sold the property to another property owner, and all of the permits that were issued back in 2006 expired. So that project won't move forward as it was initially designed. The property is now under agreement with Quincy Howard LLC, and their agreement with the owner of the property is to buy this subject to their ability to develop the site in the fashion that they're proposing tonight. What they're proposing, it's a very unusual shaped site, as you can see. The outline of the site kind of follows like that. It's an incredibly unusually shaped site. And obviously it has some difficult soil conditions with ledge and other aspects with the topography as such. The proposal is to construct the building on the largest portion of the site on East Howard Street, but have its access from Quincy Avenue and utilize the portion of the site here along East Howard from Quincy Ave as an additional parking for the site. The building will be built in this location. As you can see, it's an interesting shape. It'll provide parking under the building for the residential units. There'll be 14 condominium units. These are intended for sale, so if they're permitted and built, they'll be sold as individual condominiums. So there'll be 15 spaces underneath the building, and then there will be an additional 21 spaces outside the building in this parking lot that's provided with access from East Tower, from Quincy Avenue. That's over 2.5 parking spaces per unit. The zoning in this particular district is zoned Business B. And Business B allows for a number of business type uses, both retail, office uses, but it also allows these types of sites to be converted and used for residential use as well. To do that, the Zoning Board of Appeals maintains jurisdiction, and the Zoning Board of Appeals is a board that sits in the City Hall, that's a 5-member board, and they'll make decisions on a special permit to allow this to be converted and used for residential use. So that's one of the requests that we'll be making from the city, is to allow a special permit for the use as residential. In addition to that request, we'll also be making requests regarding variances because of the shape of the site. It's very difficult to put a building on this site and to meet all the requirements of the ordinance. So we'll be making a request of the zoning board to allow for some variances. But the biggest part of the review as we go through this process is by the planning board. The planning board actually requires the applicant to hire an independent engineer to review all the plans that are submitted to the board, and to ensure that they're in order, and to ensure that there won't be any impact to the community and to the neighborhood. And those issues relate to drainage, they relate to access to and from the site, safety for pedestrians, and safety for vehicles. And all those things are reviewed in detail during the planning board process and also the zoning board process. I think one of the greatest things for all of you as neighbors of this is that it does require that level of review and permits. The Zoning Board of Appeals or the Planning Board allow these matters without a full review of all the departments in the city and these independent agencies. So the proposal, as I said, it provides for the parking both on the site and under the building. It provides for one handicap unit on the first floor that's in the front of the building that Shane will talk about in more detail, and the remaining 13 units above. There will be 4 stories above the ground layer of the level of parking. It's for a total of 5 stories of building. As you can see, the architectural elevation or rendering of the building kind of gives you a feel of what the building would look like from East Howard Street. And the parking then would be provided here. As you can see in the plan, a lot of the mature landscaping will be maintained in the rear of the site, and there will be additional landscaping along the front. A lot of plantings, and those things are going to be made a part of the landscape plan that's going to be filed with the board, and it will be reviewed by both the city departments and the independent peer review to make sure that it's going to be aesthetically pleasing to the community as well. So that's an overview of the presentation. As I indicated, the principals are here as well to answer questions that you may have, and I can certainly do so. But Shane, why don't you take a minute just to kind of walk through maybe the building?
So this is, we can start with the site plan. It's a, we come up off of Quincy Ave, there's a driveway that leads to the building. The entry to the garage comes in here, and there's 15 garage spaces underneath the building itself. So it'll be at least one garage space for every unit inside, and then some surface parking, the remainder of the 36 parking spaces on the exterior. We have an area for a dumpster enclosure, a dog walk area, and then you see the green space that surrounds the building. There's a, if you know the site, it's a pretty drastic difference between the street level along East Howard and the back side. So this is actually up on almost a terrace, and we'll wall off around on this back side in order to terrace this back piece up at the higher elevation, which you can kind of see when you're on East Howard. It's almost 2 levels up on that back side where that terrace is going to end up being. So if we start with the plan. So there's a small entrance off East Howard. The city wanted to keep all any kind of stopping, deliveries, or anything like that off of the East Howard side. So we have some area in the parking lot where any kind of deliveries can come in, and that leaves East Howard clear. There's a turning lane that's all along East Howard. They just want to keep that street open all the time. So we have an entrance on East Howard. It's just kind of minimized for the building. It's more of kind of a ceremonial entrance that centers the building, faces it. It's kind of like your front door of your single-family house. Nobody ever uses the front door in the middle, but it's there. It's kind of like what this is here. And then we have a small basement level at that East Howard Street side where we have just storage space and utility rooms down at that level. And then we come up to the garage level, which is about 9 feet off of East Howard. And there's the 15 parking spaces. And then on the, the northeast side of the building, we have the first floor unit, which is a flat. And then we have elevator access up to the upper units as well. There's an entry to the garage into kind of a vestibule that you access the elevator and the front stair. As well, from the surface parking, we have a walkway that comes along to the front entry from the outside as well. There's a bike room with, we're at 28 bike storage area, spaces. The number's eluding me right now. I believe it was 28 though, but we have that right at the beginning of the garage. So a good amount of covered bike storage. Like I said, this is a flat unit, so this would be a type 1 accessible unit. As we move to the, we move to the second floor. These units are a little different than kind of your typical flats in like a multifamily. They're actually duplexes, so the second and third floor, and the fourth and fifth floor are sets of duplexes. So with each one having living room, kitchen, half bath on the first floor, and then on the second floor of each duplex, there's 2 bedrooms and a study. So there's a master bedroom with its own bathroom, and a common bath, a bedroom, and then a smaller study. So that repeats itself on both the second and third and fourth and fifth levels. All the units are about 1,500 square feet, and I think the total of the building was just over 27,000, so we're still under an FAR of 1 for the whole site. And this is just, again, the 5th floor, showing the upper level of the duplex as a upper floor. So this is for units 9 through 12. I'm sorry, 9 through 14. And then there's one, so this section of the building is only 4 stories. This is actually a triplex for those. So there's 6, the ground floor unit, and then the triplex unit, which again is a 2-bed, 1 study with a master bedroom on 1 level, and then the bedroom and study on a secondary level. And then we go back down to the 1st floor. That unit is the living room, kitchen again. Just with the exterior design, we just kind of want to break up the mass of the building. So these pieces come in and out. You can kind of see where these parts of the massing of the building comes in and out along the facade. Or just to break it up a little, and then we differentiate with materials come through. Like, again, just so it's not one large mass on the site. I think that's kind of the basics of it.
So we really wanted to just give an overview and open it up to any questions or comments or concerns that you may have. So the goal of this meeting, as Brad said initially, is to really introduce you to the proposal, but then answer as many questions as we can before we even file. No application has been filed. There will be an application filed with both the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals, as I said. The Planning Board process will probably be a couple-month process. We'll go through all of the review of all the departments and the peer review engineer, the independent engineer, but there will also be public hearings, at which time you'll have an opportunity to speak both at the Planning Board and at the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So